Welcome to Podadelphia. My name is Dave Diorio. You can find me on Twitter at @fat_lobster. And I'm joined by a guy who's not going into the Hall of Fame this year. What's up, Chuck?
I am not going in the Hall of Fame this year. It is one of my final years of eligibility. I don't know what Hall of Fame I'm eligible for, but I'm running out of time, and that's deeply concerning to me, and it should be deeply concerning to you. If you want to express those concerns to me, you can find me on Twitter at Chuck Siders. You can find the show at Podadelphia.
And if you are concerned, have no fear. Gene will be with us shortly, but we're going to get started here. So, Chuck, big news of the day. Well, we got a couple of big newses of the day. Where do you want to start? You want to start Hall of Fame, since that's kind of where we did the intro with?
Yeah, let's. Especially since I guess there's technically nothing to talk about.
And kind of like a shocker, baseball's going to lead the show today.
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk about baseball. It's a cold, miserable day. Feels like spring, feels like summer, but exciting baseball news. We'll get to that in a bit, but yeah, nobody's going to the Hall.
No one got the required. Yeah, no one got the required 75% of the Baseball Writers of America vote to get into the Hall of Fame, and former Philly Curt Schilling was the closest with 71.1%. And it kind of opens the door to a larger question. I really don't think many people would say that would disagree that his on the field performance and statistics warrant Hall of Fame induction.
No, I agree. I mean, maybe not first ballot, probably not first ballot. But if he were just Curt Schilling, the guy, we wouldn't be talking year 9 and him not being in the Hall. He'd be going, but he's certainly earned a reputation and earned the distrust, the character issues. He was surrounded by roids too. I mean, I guess the one way not to be accused of doing steroids is have a body like Curt Schilling's. That keeps you looking pretty clean.
No one has accused us lately. Of performance enhancing drugs.
No.
But yeah, so let's take the on the field debate sort of off the table, because goddamn, like in the late 90s, I watched every it was must see TV. Every Curt Schilling start, you were glued. And I'm sure if Gene was here, he'd tell you, if you saw in the newspaper it was Schilling and Maddox, you're going down to the vet. You have a section all to yourself for an $8 ticket, and you're gonna watch a just straight up legit marquee pitching matchup, Hall of Famer versus potential Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. But so I mean, Chuck, do you know how far down the rabbit hole Curt Schilling goes? Because I don't really follow him on social media and stuff.
I don't follow him on social media. I'm not one who would be inclined to. Of the two of us, you're the one who followed Nails on Twitter or whatever his public breakdown happened. I do not follow Curt Schilling, but apparently he is a QAnon guy.
I was going to ask, because I know he's like a Trump guy, and he's pretty far right wing. I didn't know if he dipped his toe into the QAnon pool or not.
Yeah, apparently he's big into Q.
Yeah, okay.
Q. Where one goes, so go we all. I think. Don't quote me on that. I don't even know why I know that, but he's apparently big into Q. He's just been an asshole all around.
Yeah,
we talked about on the show before his game development company that defrauded people.
Mm-hmm.
He's been just a general loudmouth and a crank. And the thing that really, just to get everyone up to speed, if you don't know, Curt Schilling, a few days ago, people were trying to retract their ballots, people who have voted for him. And I don't think we ever got official word, but I think the answer was no. I don't think those ballots were retracted.
Because did they vote before the storming of the Capitol?
Yes, they did vote.
And he did come out in support of that?
He did. He did. Okay. Now, it wasn't as unequivocal as it could be.
Right.
I mean, but it was definitely calling the people who were doing these things praising them, saying other people are sitting at home
and all that kind of crap.
Yeah. So I don't know if he called them patriots, but if he did, I wouldn't be surprised. But a few days ago, people were looking to retract their ballots or want their ballots back to change it. And the Hall of Fame said they worry about the precedent and sets. I tend to agree with the Hall of Fame. If you didn't have enough evidence in front of you that Curt Schilling might not be someone you want to vote for.
Well, this is where this conversation is going to go because, I mean, are we just going to say any conservative leaning player shouldn't be considered for the Hall of Fame? Like, what in your so would you vote for Curt Schilling for the Hall of Fame?
Before January 6th, yes. So once they made that argument, once it left my mouth, I'm like, it would have changed my mind as well, because that goes beyond politics. That goes beyond being an asshole. As far as we know, Curt Schilling never cheated the game. As far as we know, Curt Schilling never bet on the game, which apparently we had Pete Rose on line 2 and has dropped off. Pete, we'll get back to you. See, now Pete's not even fun because his relationship with the young girls.
Yeah, no, you gotta watch that.
Yeah, so go to hell, Pete. But Schilling didn't even do that. He did some minor fraud, and just is kind of an asshole.
He just kind of got caught up in a belief system that led him down, a dark path.
Yeah, I honestly hadn't put much thought into the question, would I vote for him on January 7th? And I do think the answer is no. And I think I would have voted for him on January 5th. Because he didn't do anything that disqualified him for the Hall before that point. And I mean, Dave, before we go to the next part of this drama, would you have?
As you were answering the question, I'm kind of like still wrestling with it.
Yeah.
I think I probably would be okay voting Curt Schilling into the Hall of Fame. And I agree that more than on the field performance goes into whether or not you're worthy, for the Hall of Fame. I do feel that, and hey, Gene, you saved me from having to answer a very difficult question.
That's what I'm here for.
Just kidding. I'm gonna finish it. I do think more goes into it than your on the field performance. However, I don't know. I look at some of these people as victims. Like you're caught up in a cult. I mean, it is kind of close to that, and it's like you're brainwashed and you're consuming this. These messages and you just don't even know what you're believing anymore. And I do think there's going to be an awakening where people are going to, stumble out of the cave and realize, that they've been fooled by puppet masters all along.
But when they go back to the cave and tell them what they've seen, they get killed. That's how that analogy goes.
Curt Schilling didn't commit a crime. He just has a whacked out view of politics right now. And, I don't know. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, who knows what existing Hall of Famers have the same belief system? Are you going to expel them? I don't know. It's a slippery slope. Just put it that way.
Do any of those guys have Twitter? Because I think that would be how we could find this information out.
But again, I don't know how bad the Curt Schilling stuff is.
What has Mickey Mantle tweeted lately? I want to know. I'm going to throw him out if I can. A Mick. That sounds like QAnon stuff to me.
It's on line 1. So, Gene, would you vote for Curt Schilling into the Hall of Fame?
I've always thought he was sort of a borderline case. I think that there's a bit of mythology that sort of surrounds him, and his numbers aren't particularly bad, but they aren't.
His numbers are not bad.
No, that's what I mean. I don't mean not particularly bad. His numbers are good, but he's not. The numbers are not like so insane that it's that you have to put him in. And the thing is, the Baseball Hall of Fame has gotten to a point where we've got so many problems with guys like Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, where you almost can't even consider numbers. I mean, you have the current by like literal sense, the current home run king and hit king are both not in the Hall of Fame. And those are sort of the two huge numbers in baseball, or the person who has the most hits and the person who has the most home runs. And neither one of those guys is in the Hall of Fame with really any sign that they will be included at any point until they're long dead. And even then, you talk to Shoeless Joe Jackson, he's still waiting to get in. So I think that there is certainly a morality aspect to.
Let me just. I'm just going to. I'm not. We're not really a statistics-driven show, but Curt Schilling's WAR for his career is 79.5. What do you believe? Do you believe Sandy Koufax's WAR is higher or lower?
Sandy Koufax, higher or lower? I feel like I'm on Card Sharks. I'm going to say lower than the 10.
Yeah, it's obviously lower, else I wouldn't be asking it. But he 48.9, significantly lower.
Significantly lower. Yeah.
I mean, Curt Schilling's WAR is massive.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it's
as any right winger would be proud of, very high WAR.
But the thing is, I think Curt Schilling does himself such a disservice, because if he really did want to be in the Hall of Fame, I think that he doesn't have the stink of like the steroid era in like the actual steroid.
He just had to be cool, man.
That's the thing is
he just had to be Fonzie.
If you can just be chill and exert yourself as an ambassador of the game, at least until you get into the Hall of Fame. I think that's partly why the writers are sort of turned off. It's like, man, you can't even just relax long enough to get yourself into the Hall of Fame.
Right. Or go join Tim Thomas off in his bunker somewhere. Go to your little cabin, write your Unabomber manifesto, and then come back for the Hall of Fame. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
We're also big on the busts that go into the Hall of Fame. So if Curt Schilling did make it into the Hall of Fame, it's a Red Sox cap.
Yeah.
It's a Red Sox hat or a Diamondback hat. Just because I don't know how many D-backs are in there. There's a lot of D-bags in there, but I don't know how many Diamondbacks are there.
Just stretch the bloody sock. Right for a second.
Yeah, he won right. 2 championships with the Red Sox, 1 with the Diamondbacks, and none with the Phils.
World Series appearance.
1 World Series appearance.
I mean, every team goes to the the Classic. So.
Yeah, can we get his bust with the towel over his head?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely tremendous postseason pitcher.
Yeah. No,
tremendous.
All times as far as postseason performance. And as far as being clutch in those situations, I mean, when he was called on to get a win, in a tight spot on many, many occasions, he delivered. My
favorite, I don't know my favorite, but one distinct Curt Schilling memory of mine is how he would always pitch 8 innings and then have a towel over his head draped down because he couldn't bear to watch Mitch Williams close the game. It's just such a distinctive memory for me from that 93 year. Okay, some more Hall of Fame stuff, because the next 3 on the list are also sort of interesting. Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, both with around 61% of the vote. And their last year is next year as well. So do you believe they will get in? Do you believe that the sports writers are kind of just saying, I'm going to make you twist? And then in the last year we'll do it.
If I had to put money on it, I would say yes. I would say there's going to be some sort of baseball writer collusion saying that, okay, we made them wait long enough. They do need to be in the Hall, at least Bonds. I mean, Clemens should be as well, but Bonds, regardless of the stuff he put in his body to get it done, he's part of history. I mean, we've said it on the show before. We're big proponents of the asterisks. I know we've had a discussion about whether they should be in the Hall or not, and say, yeah, put them in the Hall, put a big fucking asterisk going, this is what they did, but they deserve to be here. So I think I'm not betting a lot of money, but if I had to bet, I'd say, yeah, they're going in next year.
I have the same sense that there might be some sort of movement to get Bonds in. It just partly because there is evidence that he probably could have gotten into the Hall of Fame before he decided to start like supercharging. He was having a pretty phenomenal career anyway, and certainly tarnished his own reputation by following through with all of that. But I think more importantly, sort of to Chuck's point, we have talked about the idea of the asterisks, but more importantly, we've sort of talked about what does the Hall of Fame mean? Is it the Hall of the best person, or is it the Hall of the best numbers? Is it the Hall of the history of baseball? And I think this is really the moment where the Hall of Fame and the Writers Association, they need to decide what they really are. If you're going to be the Hall of the best person, the most moral and most representative of baseball, like the ethos that you want to have children grow up and because then I think Chase Utley becomes a first ballot Hall of Famer. If you're throwing out statistics and you're really taking it on work effort and likability, then I think Chase Utley goes in first ballot. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is Barry Bonds, because there's just not the same sort of thing like you have with Pete Rose, where there was a lifetime ban. I think you have to put your home run king in, especially now that Hank Aaron is no longer alive. I think there was a certain amount of they didn't want to do it while Aaron would have been there to have to watch it happen. And I don't know if that's true. Maybe that's just my feeling. Clemens is another one that I feel sort of just rubs people the wrong way. Although Roger Clemens probably, if asked, would go and pitch tomorrow to try to make the point that he could still do it.
Well, I think Roger Clemens falls into that sort of same category you're talking about. I mean, I doubt Roger was juicing in 1986 when he struck out 20 guys in a game.
Right. I don't think he was.
But I also think that that's sort of like, I want these guys in, and this is going to be my, argument as to why I think it's acceptable to put them in.
Right.
But I'm so mad at those guys. Like, still. Yeah. It's hard for me to swallow that pill and say, okay, put him in. Even though Pete Rose is still, baseball's already said like it's not happening, so forget it.
But I mean, for example, and Dave, you might have had this conversation with your kids. I know I've had this conversation with my nephew where
I don't talk to my kids.
Oh well, that's probably the best. That's why I talk to my brother's kids. So, but I remember asking my nephew. My nephew was asking, who had the most home runs in the league and all this other stuff. And I made a point when asked about that to be like, well, this is Barry Bonds, but and then sort of illustrate the controversy and say, but maybe he was doing things that helped him do it. And then there was this other guy named, Hank Aaron, and before that there was Babe Ruth. So now the story becomes about the history of baseball and not, when I was growing up, it was like, who has the most home runs? It's Hank Aaron. Boom. That was the end of the conversation.
Right.
Now it becomes a little bit more nuanced.
No, if you ask my oldest son, what is the record for home runs? He's going to say 755. Because we had the conversation about it when Hank Aaron passed away, which we also, didn't talk about. Because, it's important, he's a significant figure in baseball history. Barry Bonds is a significant figure also, but for, very, very, very different reasons.
One is a hero and an American that should be revered. And one is a cautionary tale that you can be at the peak of your career and make bad decisions. And
exactly. Those Icarus wings will only take you so close to the sun. Exactly. And then fourth on the list with 53% of the vote, fan favorite Scott Rowland.
Ooh.
Who's getting ever closer.
He'll probably get in.
He's already been there.
Well, yeah. I mean, what's better than baseball heaven? I only queued it up to hear you bitch about baseball heaven. All right, let's move on from the Hall of Fame. And the big news of the day, JT's back.
Oh, I can't believe it. Even though this has been percolating for a bit, even though it looked like it was going to happen, and a lot of people were saying that the Phillies were the leader in the clubhouse. I've seen what happens when the Phillies are the leader in the clubhouse. They fall back to the pack. But
it's called August.
Yes, thank you. And I was cautiously optimistic, but I had given up hope on Romeuto months ago. I thought we're done. And this change in management, maybe they got it done, but I wasn't hearing a thing when Klentak was still
around. Do you think it's potentially part of Dombrowski like coming over? He's like, look, I'm not going to come over there and then you're going to turn off the flow of money. We're going to have to get some stuff done. And also, you look like a giant horse's ass that you trade your number one prospect and then let the guy you traded for just walk.
Yeah. And the guy you gave the franchise to, you have a big paycheck for Bryce Harper, and then like it goes back in the pocket, the pocketbook, and it's like, all right, what do we have in the couch?
Yeah.
with Nichols, what sort of other players can we afford? And Harper
stars
was saying,
we're adopting a stars and scrubs mentality with this team.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly what it seemed like, but I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. 5-year term, perfect. I don't care how much money he's getting, good for him. But 5-year term, love it. I could not be happier.
Yeah, that's about the length of his catching career will be anyway, because he'll be 35 at that point, or 36.
Yeah, right in that neighborhood. I
had an interesting conversation on Twitter. Do you think at the end of this contract, will JT Realmuto be the greatest catcher in Phillies history?
I think if they are able to win a World Series in that window, he could certainly make
if they don't even make the playoffs in that window.
I mean, then it would have to come down to the numbers. I mean, the best catcher in Phillies history.
Well, here's your candidates. Your candidates are Darren Dalton, Mike Lieberthal, Boone, and Ruiz.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't have to do a lot as far as statistics, I would think, to pass. But, I mean, Boone's got a ring. Chooch's got a ring. I mean, but Chooch was not a star player. He was a good player at times and a beloved player. Doesn't mean that he would be best player.
I mean, you're not going to list Pedro Feliz as one of the 4 best third basemen of Phillies history because he has a ring.
Right. But
I love Chooch though.
But Boone
I always crap on Chooch.
And Darren Dalton did play in a World Series, and he won a World Series with
Marlins.
With the Marlins, and he was clearly the lifeblood of the organization. He was he was this heart and soul while he was a player, and then was a major ambassador for the Phillies when he left his playing career. But again, not a better player than Chooch, and certainly better than Feliz. But I think that JT has the potential to be a very special player offensively and definitely defensively. He's going to win you games just by the way he plays defense. And God, it would be, I feel like there would be some sort of a major funk on the whole operation if you go the next 5 years with what they've sort of got in place and can't figure out a way to at least make the playoffs. That would be sort of catastrophic.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe the toughest division in baseball, but
but you have to. You can only play what you've got in front of you, and you need.
I get it.
Right away. I mean, the Boston Red Sox were one World Series out of the NL East.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Look, I ranked them. Dalton 1, Lieberthal 2, Boone 3, and Ruiz 4, and then Sal Fasano 5.
Right.
I think if JT manages to get, he's already played 2 seasons. If he gets 7 seasons in as Phillies catcher, he will be number 1 because he's offensively and defensively superior to any other catcher we've had in this town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Dalton is, he's past Dalton offensively. And I mean, maybe Ruiz I don't know if it's Ruiz or Lieberthal is the best defensive.
I think they were sort of on par. I will say that Ruiz certainly had relationships with very really good pitchers, and
Sure.
there was certainly an aspect to,
and those pitchers always, gave him credit as making them better. So that goes for something.
But we're even hearing as we bring in free agents right now that some of these guys that are coming in, Archie Bradley comes to mind, saying they can't wait to throw to JT Romeuto. So that's an exciting thing to think that he may be part of what is attracting other players in. You have a core of JT Romeuto and Bryce Harper, and they're trying to recruit you into the organization. Those are two guys that you want to play with. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I think the difference between best catcher in Phillies history versus most beloved is going to be a pretty big chasm. I think he's on a pretty clear track to be the best statistical catcher we've had. Raw talent wise, I think I haven't seen anybody better behind the plate for the Phils, but Chooch is beloved, especially because of his relationship with those pitchers and maybe intangibles he brings as a calming presence, as a person calling the game or whatever the case may be. And Dutch is the number 1 or 2 most beloved Phil of all time, really, so he has a long way to go, in like fan consensus, but I think statistically it'd almost be a disappointment if he's not the greatest Phillies catcher of all time.
Yeah.
He's certainly the best eye roll of any Phillies.
Let's move on to other teams that aren't playing right now. And do the Eagles hire a coach?
That's the rumor.
I heard this somewhere.
Snuck under the radar on us.
Yeah, like Christian Sirianni or something.
What? Nick Sirianni?
Yeah, it was a dumb joke. It was a dumb joke.
All right. I mean, we have a sports chat thread that we go through on text messages, which we refer to on this show all the time. And you guys talked about it on Thursday for a hot minute, and I didn't see it. And God damn, I didn't even know it even happened until Saturday morning.
Wow.
I mean, without any sort of fanfare or, no one knows what to make of this. I mean, how do you feel about it?
I'll let you lead, Gene, because I'm all about the meh.
Well, this was at first I had almost no reaction. The only reaction I think I had was this guy looked like Aaron Rodgers' stunt double. I think that's about all I could muster out. So I had to go. I'll be honest, the reason why I had to figure this all out, because I knew as soon as I saw my father, he was going to have 50 million questions as to who this guy was and why he should care. So I needed to come up with something so that I could explain to him how he should feel. Because if I don't tell him, then I'm leaving him to his own devices, and God only knows what he'll come up with. So I did a little digging, and from what I understand, he's got some deep roots to the Chargers organization. He was one of the few coaches that was retained during two different, I think he also had a stretch in Kansas City where he was retained by head coaches in both situations, which I guess bodes well. Which by that logic, though, Deuce Staley should be in the Hall of Fame as a head coach, but it hasn't really panned out for him. Then he went on to Indianapolis. I think he's been there 2 seasons. They've had moderate success in Indianapolis.
I think he's been the OC there for 3 years.
But I mean, considering that he came in as that organization sort of lost their cornerstone player and sort of turned sideways and trying to adjust, and he's had a different quarterback every year. They've had a pretty consistent offense, and he comes highly recommended from Frank Reich, who I think that our front office clearly values his opinion, which is strange considering they just fired Doug Peterson. That suddenly they're going sort of on the Doug Peterson tree.
Well, real quick, Frank Reich's the one that got away.
I agree. Frank Reich.
Yeah, they're pining for him like they be pined for Gruden all those years.
Oh my god. The Frank Reich stuff is look. Philly, pump the brakes on Frank Reich. I mean, so we won the Super Bowl, and then the next year we didn't win the Super Bowl. So all of a sudden it's like, well, what got taken out of the equation? It's Frank Reich. Frank Reich's why we won the Super Bowl. Frank Reich's why Carson Wentz was great. Frank Reich is why Nick Foles did so well. Frank Reich is Jesus. I don't believe that. I mean, the Colts are okay, right? They're good.
Yeah, they're okay. They're okay.
I just don't get that. And now it's like, oh, well, Frank Reich told Nick Sirianni all the secrets to Carson Wentz. So he's going to come in and be like a proxy Frank Reich. It's like the Frank Reich obsession with this town is crazy, but you're right. I mean, like in the mentality of sports fans, like Frank Reich's the one that got away. It's like no one will ever be as great as Frank Reich was as, offensive coordinator.
Well, I did see, I think it was on Instagram, that they are actually removing the Doug Peterson side of the statue, and they are erecting a new
Frank Reich
side.
I love the revisionist history. I know we just retconned the Philly.
Yeah, that's going to be brought to you by Miller Lite.
All right, that's silly. So here's how I feel about it, right? So this was my understanding of the way everything went down. It was Doug Peterson wanted to be a real boy and pick his own coaching staff. And Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman were like, no. And Doug said, well, I won a Super Bowl, so you can't tell me what to do. And they were like, you're fired. Right? Wasn't that kind of the story that we got told?
That was one of the narratives.
So, all right. So then the real like behind the curtain coaching search was, we want someone we can control, who doesn't have a resume, who's inexperienced, that we can kind of control. So they found, another recommendation from a former coach here. So they bring in Nick Sirianni, but then they let Nick Sirianni pick all his friends to be on the coaching staff. Yeah. So why the hell can Nick Sirianni pick whoever he wants to be on his coaching staff, but Doug Peterson can't?
Yeah, it's good to be the king, apparently. It's good to be the nobody. Yeah, I mean, Sirianni's basically bringing in like a bunch of guys that got him out of DUIs from college and gonna make them.
This is the most like, well, these guys really have potential coaching staff in the National Football League.
Yeah, right? It's a very, very, very high ceiling, sort of situation. Yeah, I don't know a lot about these guys as these names sort of get spun around the interweb. You sort of be like, who is this? Where is he coming from? What is he doing? And none of them have these things that like blow you away. I mean, I got to be honest. It's hard for me to gauge any of like what other teams. Coordinators and coaches have done.
And that's what I feel like the city right now doesn't have an opinion because no one knows.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, well, I guess it could be great. We're like cautiously optimistic about it.
I mean, the WIP sort of populace, they all were clamoring for Deuce Staley for the fourth time. And I don't know if that was that they really thought that Deuce Staley was the right coach for the team, or they just felt bad that we keep interviewing him and not giving him a job, which doesn't seem on brand for the people that listen to talk radio in the city. But like, honestly, as I was going, I was like, do people just feel bad that Deuce keeps getting interviewed and getting shirked? Are they sort of empathizing with this? Or these people that are unemployed? I mean, if you're listening to talk radio at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon and venting, you probably don't have a job. I don't know.
You might be alienating our own audience too, so maybe tread lightly there, G.
Well, I mean,
not 1 o'clock in the afternoon right now.
That is true.
And also, definitely. I was listening to talk radio at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so I resemble these remarks. But that's the thing is like, what do you know as a fan about what this interview process is even like? Who knows what questions are even being asked? And the thing I thought was actually very interesting, and this is something that I had not ever remembering getting wind of or hearing in the past, and this could just be because we are in a new and exciting social media world. They actually had audio of Jeffrey Lurie calling up Nick Sirianni and offering him the job, as it was happening. And leading up to that, there had been a lot of things where, Lurie's camp or Roseman's camp, the Eagles camp, had sort of gotten out there into the world. He really crushed the the interview. Like there were some other good candidates, but he really stood out with what he said in the interview. And so when you hear the phone call, and I recommend going and listening to it, it's not long, but you have, Jeffrey Lurie kind of getting on the horn, and he's real giddy, and he's like, hey, Nick, I want to ask you an important question.
Such a nerd with that.
and
I have an important question to ask you.
And Sirianni's like,
will you accept this rose?
Of course, Mr. Lurie. Anything.
Sirianni's like, yeah, bro, what's up? And Lurie's like, would you like to be the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles?
Oh, man.
Yeah. And there's this
he did a dramatic reenactment of the you don't need
I'm so excited. I want to be part of this franchise.
Oh, man, I'm so excited.
The whole thing was either the most absurd fanboy love fest or completely scripted and staged. I can't tell which it was. It might be somewhere in the middle. But sort of the legend of Nick Sirianni is sort of being born out of this. From the story that he was so busy that he couldn't even be bothered to get like dress pants and a clean shirt to come to the interview. So he showed up in like workout clothes. So the Eagles brass got wind of it. So they all dressed in their workout clothes to make Nick feel more comfortable.
Yeah, is Joseph A. Bank closed? Like, did they not have them in Florida or wherever he was on vacation at?
I have no idea, but like, can you imagine like going on to any of your job interviews at places?
Were they dressed for me?
Right. Having never been able to interview for an NFL. I will tell you, if I was given to take a job as like ticket seller at the Eagles, I'm pretty sure I would make sure I had a shirt and tie, let alone apply for the job of head coach. So I don't know. And maybe that's one of these things where the Eagles love to sort of create this mythology around their processes. They love the story of how they arrive at these things. There were all those stories about all of them traveling out to South Dakota and sitting in small restaurants with Carson Wentz and being unrecognized. And, these are all these things that they sort of create around this mythology of the team, as if that's what's going to be important is, at least they have a fun story about how they hired somebody. But in the end, we don't know whether this is good or bad. We didn't know with Doug Peterson either.
Yeah, I want to jump in on 2 points with the hiring, because we don't know what the process is like. And Gene, you're telling us, oh, these are the stories coming out of it. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the story of how Andy Reid got hired? It all came down to like he had this great notebook.
It came down to the last 5 minutes of Wing Bowl.
Andy had used all of his timeouts. But he had this like big notebook that was really impressive. And they were like, how is this quarterback's coach? Which was pretty unheard of at the time, like jumping all the way up to head coach. And it's like, he had a great interview, and it all came down to Andy's magic notebook of scripted plays and whatever. But at least that was a story. At least this is how he impressed us. And then I was just sort of thinking about the other coaches in the city. And you kind of have your development coach and then your coach to get you over the hump. I could see Doug Peterson coming in at the early part of Carson's career, early part of Wentz's career. Now, isn't it the time to bring in your Doc Rivers, your Elaine Vigneault, your Joe Girardi? Isn't it time to bring in?
Because they already got over the hump.
Yeah, I think they stumbled over the hump.
We're starting over again now.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I somehow.
Well, 2017 Foles got over the hump. But go on, sorry, Gene.
No, but that's what I mean is I think I remember even as 2017 was happening, I kept thinking like, this is too soon. If this is this something feels wrong, something's going to break, something in the universe is going to collapse. The Eagles can't win the Super Bowl, and then they did.
You secretly hate yourself.
Gene might have a point. Have you looked around lately?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like. We thought we knew we were going to have to pay for it somehow. I didn't think all of us were going to have to pay for it. But yeah,
I don't care. We got that Super Bowl. It was all worth it.
Yeah. I remember saying early in September of 2017, God, if you can have the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I promise I won't leave my house between December 2020 and sometime in 2025.
Yeah.
I guess I should be a little less specific. But yeah, it's one of those things where they were ahead of schedule. And I was so excited because it's like, wow, we got this Super Bowl. We've got it in our pocket. And man, we're going to be so good. We're still under, Carson hasn't even gotten his payday. And, we have this offensive line intact. And then all of a sudden it went to shit. It went
just goes to show you, man. Like you gotta seize the moment when you have the opportunity. And I don't think football's really like a cyclical thing like that, though. I mean, like you can Eagles could be in the NFC Championship game next year, and you know what I mean? Like stuff happens that fast in the NFL, like an injury, whatever happens. I mean, just think like
the Buccaneers this year, they turned it completely around just by getting a quarterback.
But that year, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't go down, that's a very problematic thing in 2017. So that's how fragile everything is in the NFL, and how you got to, there's that like luck factor and everything that comes into it. I guess I don't know. We don't know. And can we have a damn press conference?
Yeah, that's the other weird thing is we haven't had him actually come out and talk. I need to see what visor he's going to rock.
And can our like beat reporters actually ask some questions this time and get some straight answers? And I want to know more about the Doug fire. Like, there's so much more I want to know, and I guess we're just never going to know. I guess we're never going to
find out about that interview. Let's find out why the hell this guy got the job. And it's going to be, have you gone to Pat's yet? Have you gone to Gino's?
Yeah.
All right, Chuck, I've held you back long enough.
Held me back?
No, Chuck. I've held Chuck back long enough. Let's talk about the Flyers.
Yeah, it's just because I'm wearing the jersey.
No, it's because you're Chuck and you love the Flyers.
That's very true. That's very true. I'm going to say good win tonight. The Flyers beat the Devils, who, if you haven't been paying attention to the Devils or the rest of the division, are actually better than you might think. They have a lot of young talent, and that young talent's, making an impact so far this year.
Yeah, we were supposed to use for Hughes, not lose to Hughes.
Yes. Well, last year, not many people were losing to that Hughes. Jack Hughes, not Quentin Hughes, not to be confused with Luke Hughes, who's coming in. But the Devils have been kind of a don't sleep on them team. Now, we did get lucky in that Mackenzie Blackwood, who, a lot of Devils fans were talking about 2 years ago, being like, oh, well, you have Hart, we have Mackenzie. And we made fun of them. And actually, Blackwood's looking to be a pretty decent goalie. I mean, the jury's still out. It's very early. But he's been playing well this season. And so we had the advantage of him being out with COVID protocol. But on the whole, I was happy with the Flyers' effort. I was happy they stuck with it. I'm happy that they were able to push through in the third to get that win and get it in regulation.
What was up with the second period today?
It changed on a dime. There were a lot of chances for the Flyers. Let's talk about what was good on the whole. Puck control, winning puck battles. That's been an issue with the style the Flyers play. It's a really high effort style. They throw it in the corner. They're going to get in there. They got to be the first in there, or they at the very least have to be the one that comes out with the puck. That wasn't happening. And the Bruins, bad matchup for the Flyers this year. We have the Islanders coming up. They're going to be the same thing. The Devils play a little more offensive style right now and aren't as good. That helps. But the Flyers are doing a lot of good things with puck control, winning puck battles, making smart plays. The second period, as it went on, after getting that quick first goal, we started getting a little dumber. Playing a little too loose, and not capitalizing on some opportunities. We had 9 shots, like they're 1. Only had 1 goal to show for it. And on the third power play, Jake Voracek's being saved from the penalty box tonight because this was going to be my penalty box, so I have to audible. But he was looking to get JVR the hat trick. And he wasn't making the smartest plays. And if you're rolling, if you don't have a lot of concerns about how the team is playing, then fine, do that. Get your line mate a hat trick. but he's forcing a pass to JVR, and it gets broken up. He goes in, throws it to the front of the net, gets broken up again. Those were not the smartest plays to make. He was trying to get JVR the hat trick. And what we should have been doing is going for blood. And that came back to haunt us. Now, thankfully, in the third period, the Flyers' offensive talent came through. But in the third period, we started seeing more panicking on the team, more panic on the defense, dumb giveaways where the guys have time. Provorov, man, somebody's got to sit down and have the talk with Provorov. I love the kid, but dude, it's your team. It's your defense now. You can't be the one doing those stupid turnovers. You have to be cool, calm, and collected. Like that Claude Giroux goal. I think it was the go-ahead goal. Yeah, it was. It was the go-ahead goal in the third where Giroux gets the puck and holds it. Classic Brindamore holds it scenario. And draws the Devils goalie into an odd position. He's out of position, taps it to Nolan Patrick for an empty netter, more or less. That is some.
You mean Claude Giroux actually demonstrated some leadership capabilities?
He did. Thank you, Mike Sealski. It is. I'm wearing my Giroux jersey today, because he has surpassed Captain Bobby Clark as the longest tenured Flyers captain of all time. I know.
How you feeling about that?
Feeling good. He deserves it. He's carried this team on his back through many years with very little help. Not a lot to show for it, but he did great. He did the job asked of him. He's been a very good captain for this team. I'm a bit all over the place. What I want to go back to is that poise that Giroux showed throughout.
Can I ask you a question about that? Because I was thinking about this today when I was watching the game. Demonstrate some patience with me with this comparison, because you're going to be like, what the heck are you talking about? The Flyers are a bit Vinny Velasquez-esque.
I'll demonstrate the patience.
This is where I need you to demonstrate the patience. In the sense that once things go wrong, they have a real hard time reining it back in and settling it back down. It's like once they start pitching from the stretch, it's real tough to get back to the windup or to get them back to a place where they can go back to the windup.
That's fair. It's been a hallmark of several Flyers teams. We've done the make the playoffs, miss the playoffs, make the playoffs, miss the playoffs. And it has been a certain level of panic in their game. I think back to that season that got Hackstall fired. And a lot of that season, the Flyers got down a little bit, and it was done. We were getting no offensive pressure. The defense was chasing the puck, like I described last week. The defense has calmed down a bit. Even though, ignore the Boston scores, the defense has calmed down a bit. The reason I say that is it wasn't like a whole bunch of cats chasing a laser pointer, which we saw against Buffalo too many times. The whole team was overwhelmed by Boston, which is its own problem. But the defense was a little more patient there. In the third period, we saw a little more cats chasing the laser pointer today. But you're right, Dave. It's been a problem for years. And this is, a turning point for me. If you've listened to the show for years, I've been very, very patient with Flyers. There have been a young team. They've been a rebuilding team. You're not so young anymore. The Flyers are not so young anymore. And they need people to be better, to be able to calm themselves. Daddy Niskanen's not here to go, hey, calm down, get your head in the game. They need to do it themselves. And someone who needs to do that is Provorov.
Right.
Now, if they build on tonight with the win, I think they play again tomorrow, if not tomorrow, Thursday, also against the Devils. If they build on this and have another really good effort, maybe a more consistent effort against the Devils, then they've done that. I'll consider this a success
Thursday.
if they were able to, gather themselves to have consistent performance going forward. So
yeah, Thursday against the Devils again.
Yep.
And then Saturday and Sunday Islanders, which is going to be like, oh man,
it's going to be a test.
So
it's going to be a test.
How's the goalie situation shape out? Carter Hart Thursday, Carter Hart Saturday, Brian Elliott Sunday. Does that sound right?
We'll see. It's probably going to
okay tonight, I thought.
Elliott's been good. Elliott's been exactly who you want him to be. He is a veteran goalie, has been part of a tandem, and throughout his whole career, he's been part of a tandem. Usually the 1A or 1B who ends up taking over the 1A. He's been a steady hand. You want him to play that role for Hart. Hart isn't Provorov. Hart's not the guy going, hey, it's on you to get your own head in the game. And Hart hasn't been bad. He's had really great stretches, but he hasn't been Carter Hart, future Vezina winner. Elliott, in the 40 save shutout over Buffalo was phenomenal. Tonight, he was very good. He was very good and steady when you needed him to be.
And I thought Elliott was good when he came in relief in that first Buffalo game.
He was. So we've seen a lot out of Elliott. I think they're going to go to Carter against the Devils. And yeah, let's hope Carter has a really strong performance. The team plays well in front of him. And then, like you said, Gene, start him against the Islanders and then have Elliott on the back end of it.
Islanders are not playing great hockey right now.
They're not. I'm not actually too up on just how well the Islanders are doing, but
I mean, just from a record standpoint,
yeah. But
500 team.
Well, we're in our division is even harder than it seemed before the season started because the Devils, if their young talent really hangs in there, they're going to be a pain in the ass. They won't make the playoffs because there's just too much other talent in the division. Thank you, buddy. But Buffalo could be a pesky team, and they're
please don't talk to me about the Rangers being better than people think that they are. Okay,
Rangers are off to a bad start, and they might be the odd man out here. It might be, sorry, Rangers, not your year. Go get another freaking number 1 draft pick.
Right,
but the Islanders are just a bad matchup for the Flyers. The Capitals are just getting points in every game they play, but they're a much better matchup for the Flyers. Penguins, they've won most every game they've played. They have 4 wins and 2 losses. Those 2 losses came to the Flyers. Penguins are a much better matchup for the Flyers. So
the Mass Mutual really traditionally is one of the toughest divisions. In hockey.
And just like most mutual funds, it's diversified. Your talent is spread out across a lot of different teams. You get something like the Scotia Bank North, not diversified. You're picking and choosing there. You're going for the Leafs. You have all your money in the Leafs, so it's not spread out that talent. It saves you from market fluctuations. In case you wondered what Chuck's day job was.
All right, so obviously you're not panicking at 4-2-1. But I mean, like, what are you have any concerns, or do you feel like everything's fine? Or
no, I have concerns. I definitely have concerns. I had set February 2nd as a arbitrary date, even before Couturier got injured.
Is this the new Thanksgiving?
No, not even that. This is my date in my head that I said this is going to compensate for no preseason. This is going to compensate for a very short training camp because there's going to need some time to gel, for some time to get really rolling.
What's new Thanksgiving this year? Is it going to be like St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah, that's a good guess. Let's say that.
We'll know who's for real by St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, we definitely will. I think it's probably going to be more like last week of February, but let's say St. Patrick's Day. That's just more fun.
Okay.
But this team should be trending in a more consistent direction, and they haven't been doing that yet. And the loss of Couturier, and I'm going to put a little, sort of kick myself on my initial thoughts. When Couturier went out, I'm like, that's a big loss, but it's a loss that could be made up by the rest of the team.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a Giroux. It's not like, I would say a Konechny, but you have a couple players who are Konechny.
For a team that prides itself on its depth.
Well, that's the thing. Couturier is just such a great all-around player that he's really missed when he's out of the lineup, but he's not some dynamic talent that you can't replace.
Right.
But everyone needs to step up their game a little. And I thought, okay, everyone step up your game. And that just hasn't happened. If it was, we're losing a Giroux and they go, hey, Konechny, go be the man, go be the offensively creative guy. That might have been easier to fill, where my initial thought was, no, everyone just has to be a little bit better, which hasn't worked out that way so far. So, again, not concerned on the whole, but there's definitely concerns to be had, but I'm not worried. We'll put it that way.
You know where you could take your concerns?
Where, Dave?
To the penalty box! Oh, no.
There's going to be a whistle noise, people.
It's broken.
Oh, no.
Someone broke my whistle.
All right, we'll just have to use our imaginations. So whistle, whistle, whistle. Dave, there we go. See, we used our imaginations and it manifested. It was like Tinkerbell coming back to life. So, Dave, who is in your penalty box?
Okay, today I am putting Mets Twitter into my penalty box. Obviously the signing of JT Romeuto today was big news. Twitter was kind of very live. Phillies Twitter was very abuzz with it. But every tweet about it that I clicked, immediately underneath it, there was some Mets fan or, blogger or whatever talking about fifth place team, overpaid, just there to really dump on our excitement with it. And now look, I am not above going to another team's Twitter to wreak some havoc. I am not above that. But what I will do is I will not go to their Twitter when something good happens for them. I will only go to pile on the bad. I'm not going to tear you down. If the when the Mets signed Lindor, the last thing I wanted to do was to go look at Mets Twitter and see them all excited about it. So, honestly, if in your mind the Phillies are still a last place team, why are you hawking our Twitter feeds and really crapping on our JT parade? So for that, I'm going to put Mets Twitter into the penalty box today.
All right, Mets Twitter. You're still living in the shadow of Yankees Twitter. Yankees Twitter at least knows how to brag. You don't come troll people when they've done something to help their team. Wait for it to fail. Wait for them to do something stupid. Mets Twitter. You're taking a 15-minute train ride to Queens. It's going to take you at least 35.
And your mascot's still Mr. Met.
One of my favorite moments in late night history is after the Mets blew their lead and allowed the Phillies to get into the playoffs. Conan O'Brien did a series with Mr. Met and the Philly fanatic more or less sleeping with Mrs. Met, just ruining his life. It was phenomenal. All right, Gene, who is in your penalty box?
So I'm going to take you on a little nostalgic journey. I don't know if you've heard of this channel on your televisions, but I recommend it if you haven't. It's called Buzzer. Anybody seen Buzzer? Buzzer is for classic old game shows. It's got stuff going back to like 60s era password up through, and this is what I really dig, some sweet 90s supermarket sweep. But here's what I'm going to put in the penalty box. Certainly not buzzards, one of my favorite things in the universe. Get lost in it for days. It was everything that I loved about the Game Show Network when it first came along. It was all of that. You know, how many times can I see Betty White say something's kind of dirty? But one of the things is, if you watch enough of that 90s, I mean, 90s fashion was particularly bad. But the person I'm putting in the penalty box, and this is very retroactive, I don't even know if they're still in the industry, is the person who made the choice that at the end of Supermarket Sweep back in the 90s, you would have to put on like your team colored sweatshirt to do the actual sweep at the end, you know, where you tried to win the game. And the thing I've noticed is everyone had their team color with a white collar. And I guess it didn't compute to me as a youth, but those collars were sewn on to those sweatshirts. They were not their actual collars just peeking up over. No, these were attached to the sweatshirts. They couldn't just wear sweatshirts. They had to wear sweatshirts with really, really dorky collars. So whoever in Mark Goodman's empire decided on putting white collars on primary colored sweatshirts, you need some time, and you needed some time then. Hopefully in the intervening decades you've sufficiently atoned, but if not, you should have a seat.
All right, sweepers, if you've made a mistake and ended up in the penalty box, get that stain out with a bottle of Clorox. You guys don't see the show. Come on, they would give up that rhyme. You have to find it at the end.
Yeah,
I came up with that off the top of my head. I was way too proud of that.
Well,
no, that was a good job by you. That was a fail on our part.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. Supermarket Sweep and the sewn-on Dickies, you get a 2-minute minor, and that's all you guys get. You didn't appreciate the joke.
You certainly made us pay for that. So who's in the penalty box?
You guys are. No, I think this person's been penalty box adjacent, if not actually in the penalty box. Going to our friends at Crossing Broad. First off, Anthony Sanfilippo, get better. He was hospitalized with COVID-19. I haven't heard any updates in a while, but at least it's been a while.
I think I saw him put up a message last week that was, thank you for all of your support, and I'm getting better.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear it. But who won't be happy to hear this is his co-host of Snow the Goalie, Russ Joy. And
I know where you're going.
Russ was teasing something throughout the game, like, I might have a hot take coming up. I'm gonna
break Flyers Twitter, but I'll say
I'm gonna break Flyers Twitter with this hot take. And here's the hot take. The fact that you cannot definitively say Carter Hart would have performed better than Brian Elliott is proof that AV needs to consider a 60-40 split for starts. Hart needs to play a more fundamentally sound game. Philly, as constructed, can't tread water till Couturier/Myers are back. We'll get to that point in a moment. His immediate follow-up, no time for anyone to respond, is, in fact, it's not even a hot take. It's the right take. It's only a hot take for those who would rather stick their head in the sand than acknowledge seeing with their own eyes. Who the fuck is he arguing with there? He made a point and then said, and all you people are so mad at my point. Like, you are sticking your head in the sand. No one had replied yet. I said, nice straw man argument. And he's like, do you disagree? And I had to define what a straw man argument was. You made up a bad guy and then you knocked him down. Good for you.
Right.
Congratulations.
But before that even, I'm going to break Flyers Twitter. I have a hot take. A hot take is not necessarily something to be proud of. You know, if you're planning on your take being hot, it means you're a hack. if you have something that's, hey, it's a bit controversial and you will jokingly call it a hot take, then sure. And maybe that's what he was doing here. But he certainly seemed damn proud of this rather lukewarm take. You know, I had mentioned, we talked about Elliott and how well he's played. That's the reason you hire Brian Elliott. He is a veteran backup. He's been in tandem. He's usually 1A or 1B. You have him here to help your young goalie. And what's he doing? He had 2 starts and 1 appearance in relief. And then 60-40 split. Okay. What do you think? Why isn't AV considering that? Do we not know that? Why wouldn't he be considering that? In this abbreviated season with back-to-back games.
It's not even a dramatic increase into what the split probably was going to be going into the season, which was probably like a 75-25 or a 70-30. So it's not even like you're going to be, you put yourself so far out there.
Yeah. It might have even been 65-35 to be honest.
Just say 50-50.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you want to say have some ball, make Elliott the starter until further notice, something like that. Hart needs to play a more fundamentally sound game. Hart's struggling a bit, but not terribly much, and his fundamentals are phenomenal. It makes him a great goalie. And then Philly has constructed can't tread water till Couturier and Myers are back. Doesn't seem like exactly what the Flyers are doing right now. Like
they're 4-2-1. They're
and Couturier's been out pretty much since the first game. So they're 3-2-1. That's like treading water, like kind of well, you know, and your goalie's helping you. So
if they win 2 of the next 3 this week, then I would say they're doing better than treading water, and that's not unrealistic.
Yeah, no, it's not at all. It's a different kind of season. It was just nonsense from beginning to end, and it's a whole bunch of look at me, aren't I special? Well, Russ Joy, you're getting a 10-minute game misconduct because I give out the penalties and I'm particularly annoyed. But 10-minute game misconduct, your hot take is ice cold.
It's funny that we always say treading. Do people tread anything other than water?
They
Mills?
tread. Yeah.
What's that?
We said that.
I didn't even hear it. What did you?
Gene and I both said they tread Mills. Because you gave us the punny setup.
Yeah,
and Gene and I, being good audience members, replied.
It was all right, Chuck. I'm sorry about the damn Clorox. All right.
I knew it was a stretch when I did it.
Look, I'm just trying to tread chicken soup here. All right, we'll get through this. All right, but that's all the time we have for today. We'll be back next Tuesday night. We'll be talking about how the Flyers did over the weekend. Hopefully, we'll get a press conference out of the Eagles. See if the Phillies can sign a shortstop. So until then, if you haven't done so already, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, check out the Painted Lines on YouTube. If you have any more time in your podcast listening day, be sure to check out the Painted Lines. They have all kinds of podcasts. And until we speak again, have a great day at work, everybody. We are out of here.